Okay, so Tulsi Gabbard continues to double down on attacking former President Obama, and CNN is completely losing it over this. Also, Speaker Johnson had to fact check New York Times for their false reporting, and there's much more stories about what the White House is focused on today. As always, we show you what both sides are saying and give you the bottom line.
Multiple intelligence community assessments released in the months leading up to the November 2016 election concluded that Russia had neither the intent nor capability to impact the outcome of the U.S. election. On December 5th,
we've been listening there to the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, continuing on what has now been a multi-day effort, not only with public statements like this, but release of documents to attempt to back up the quite extreme allegation that President Obama is guilty of treason and that he worked in some sort of conspiracy with Hillary Clinton, etc., in the assessment by the intelligence community at the time that Russia interfered in the 2016 election.
So CNN pretty much cut the feed there because they don't want to entertain this entire situation about former President Obama. They do not want to entertain how Tulsi Gabbard has clearly exposed what everybody already knew, that this was an entire hoax in regards to Russia. And quite frankly, there's so many more important things in our country that we should be talking about. But just a fair warning in this video, these stories is what the media is obsessed with today. So we have to talk about them. Now, what I find entertaining is how CNN is taking all this. It's really interesting. So they did a whole segment right after this press conference to explain why nobody should be listening to this. Take a look.
So this is what the White House believes is the most important pressing topic of the day, not the economy, not what is happening on Capitol Hill, not what's happening in Ukraine, not as what is happening in so many other places, but talking about the 2016 campaign. So look, we have reached out to representatives of the former Clinton campaign, which you and I covered at the time, Brianna. We will let you know if we hear back from them on these new allegations, but we should point out that these are some pretty far out there allegations that saying the Russian intelligence community had information that Hillary Clinton was on tranquilizers at the time. This was in no way verified. We have no idea. I mean, this is hardly information that we should even be repeating. Never mind that it's some years after the fact, 8 years more than that after the fact, but also just to look at the source. But look, this is the what this White House wants to talk about, and I'm not sure that we should spend that much more time on it, frankly. Yeah.
All right, so just a few things. Number one, I love seeing CNN squeal, okay, because that's what's happening right now. They just cannot stand that they have to report on what the White House is talking about as it pertains to former President Obama and the Russia hoax and all this other stuff. So it's just entertaining to me. Now, number two, they do make a good point. I mean, why is the White House so fixated on this particular story? There's plenty of other things that they should be focusing on, like the trade deals, the economy, etc. But I'm not the president of the United States and I don't run the White House, so it's their prerogative to talk about what they want to talk about. And quite frankly, it's only one day where they held a press conference over this stuff. Now, what's interesting, the response from the media to the White House is this. You guys are claiming these intelligence reports were manufactured. Why did Republicans sign off on them? Take a look.
Just on this, Director Gabbard, you referenced the past intelligence reports and assessments on this, including that 2017 one that was signed off, as Ed noted, by every Republican on the Senate Intelligence Community, including the acting chair of the time, now Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who said in a statement that they did not find any evidence of Russian collusion, but they did find, however, is very troubling, and they found irrefutable evidence of Russian meddling. One, are you saying that he's wrong in that statement that he made then? And secondly, what would you say to people who believe that you're only releasing these documents now to improve your standing with the president after he said that your intelligence assessments were wrong?
Well, first, I want to correct something that you stated, which was citing the Senate Intelligence Committee's report as being one and the same. I think you said the intelligence community. The Senate Intelligence Committee has a very different function than the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. The evidence and the intelligence that has been declassified and released is irrefutable. I'm going to let Caroline speak to Secretary Rubio.
I'll speak to both questions. First, on Secretary Rubio, he put out a statement in 2020 following that Senate Intelligence Committee report, and he said what they found is troubling. We found irrefutable evidence of Russian meddling, which the Director of National Intelligence just confirmed for all of you, that Russia was trying to sow distrust and chaos. But what's the outrage in this that Secretary Rubio did not say at the time, the Democrats were saying at the time, is the fact that the intelligence community was concocting this narrative that the president colluded with the Russians, that the president's son was holding secret meetings with the Russians, all of these lies that were never true.
All right, so as we continue to talk about this, I continue to get even more annoyed because this is a waste of time. I really do believe that, guys, but I got to tell you and I got to show you what is happening in today's news. At the end of the day, the White House's response to Republicans signing off on these intelligence reports from 2016, 2017, is that they never said that President Trump was colluding with Russia. Republicans never agreed to that. It was Democrats who were saying that, all based on manufactured intelligence from former President Obama and his cronies. Okay. So what about this whole idea about Tulsi Gabbard and her, I guess, dispute with the president, according to Caitlin Collins? Well, here's what the White House press secretary had to say.
As for your second question, Caitlin, I think who is saying that she would release this to try to boost her standing with the president? Who has said that?
Well, the president has publicly undermined her when it came to Iran. He said she was wrong. He told me that she didn't know what she was talking about. That was on Air Force One on camera.
The only people who are suggesting that the Director of National Intelligence would release evidence to try to boost her standing with the president are the people in this room who constantly try to sow distrust and chaos amongst the president's cabinet, and it is not working. I will just answer your question directly. I am with the President of the United States every day. He has the utmost confidence in Director Gabbard. He always has. He continues to, and that is true of his entire cabinet, who is all working as one team to deliver on the promises this president made.
Yeah, so maybe Caitlin Collins should ask better questions. Now, before we go any further, let's hear from today's sponsor of this video, American Financing. I got to ask you a question. What if you could delay your next 2 mortgage payments? That's right. Imagine putting those 2 payments in your pocket and finally getting a little breathing room. It's possible when you call American Financing today. If you're feeling stretched by everyday expenses, groceries, gas, bills are piling up, you're not alone. Most Americans are putting these expenses on their credit cards, and there doesn't seem to be a way out, and we can thank Jerome Powell because he refuses to lower rates. And that's why American Financing can show you how to use your home equity to pay off that debt. You need to call American Financing today before you get to a point where you can't make those payments. Their salary-based mortgage consultants are helping homeowners just like you restructure their loans and consolidate debt, all without upfront fees. And by the way, they're saving customers an average of $800 a month. So all you have to do is call now, 866-890-9392. That's 866-890-9392, or hit the link in the description below. All right, so 2 things could be true at the same time. Tulsi Gabbard's opinion of Iran could totally be in contradiction to the President of the United States. And it's also true that he's not looking to can her like he did with Mike Waltz. I mean, I don't see the scandal there, I guess. I mean, but that's what Caitlin Collins wants to focus on, of course. I think there are more relevant questions besides that, in my personal opinion. But hey, I'm not the journalist, right? And the reason why I said that I'm getting annoyed at talking about this stuff, because I'm a results guy. Give me the bottom line. Why does this even matter at the end of the day? Where are we going with this story, right? And that is the most important question, meaning what? Will former President Obama and his cronies get convicted or at a minimum taken to court over this?
Do you believe that any of this new information implicates former President Obama in criminal behavior?
We have referred and will continue to refer all of these documents to the Department of Justice and the FBI to investigate the criminal implications of this.
For even former President Obama?
Correct. The evidence that we have found and that we have released directly point to President Obama leading the manufacturing of this intelligence assessment. There are multiple pieces of evidence and intelligence that confirm that fact.
Ed, go ahead.
Director Gabbard, thank you. So just 2 questions, but to begin on that. The president yesterday, you've inferred that the former president helped lead a coup. Based on what you now see, do you believe President Obama is guilty of treason?
I'm leaving the criminal charges to the Department of Justice. I'm not an attorney, but as I've said previously, when you look at the intent behind creating a fake manufactured intelligence document that directly contradicts multiple assessments that were created by the intelligence community, the expressed intent and what followed afterward can only be described as a years-long coup and a treasonous conspiracy against the American people, our republic, and an attempt to undermine President Trump's administration.
Yeah, so let me provide you guys the careful reminder of what happened when the Supreme Court ruled that there is something called presidential immunity for official acts. Okay, thank you to President Trump, of course, because we know they tried to send him to prison. If former President Obama sat down with his officials based on intelligence about an election, that is an official act. Now, I'm not the lawyer. I don't work at the DOJ, just like Tulsi Gabbard said, and that's why I strongly believe this is going to go nowhere. However, I'd be lying to you if I didn't say I was at least entertained by this next clip where Tulsi Gabbard also exposes Hillary Clinton. Take a look.
The report goes into great detail about the information that Russia and Putin had on Hillary Clinton, which included possible criminal acts like secret meetings with multiple named U.S. religious organizations in which State Department officials offered, in exchange for supporting Secretary Clinton's campaign for the presidency, significant increases in financing from the State Department. They also had documents that showed the patronage of the State Department to State Department employees who would go and support Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign. There were high-level DNC emails that detailed evidence of Hillary's, quote, psycho-emotional problems, uncontrolled fits of anger, aggression, and cheerfulness, and that then Secretary Clinton was allegedly on a daily regimen of heavy tranquilizers. Then CIA Director Brennan and the intelligence community mischaracterized intelligence and relied on dubious substandard sources to create a contrived false narrative that Putin developed a, quote-unquote, clear preference for Trump.
Yeah, so as I tell you guys, this is an entire political reality TV show, right? That's how I feel sometimes when I'm having to talk about what's happening in the news, because you could just see the behavior. So now that President Trump has been attacking former President Obama and those officials and Democrats in general, what does one of the media outlets decide to do? Well, they run this story from the Wall Street Journal that claims that Trump's Department of Justice told him that he was in the Epstein files back in May. Take a look.
Okay, we have some breaking news. This is from the Wall Street Journal. Justice Department told Donald Trump in May that his name is among many in the Epstein files. Again, this is from the Wall Street Journal, and I'll read a little bit from the article. When Justice Department officials reviewed what Attorney General Pam Bondi called a truckload of documents related to Jeffrey Epstein earlier this year, they discovered that Donald Trump's name appeared multiple times, according to senior administration officials. In May, Bondi and her deputy informed the president at a meeting in the White House that his name was in the Epstein files, the officials said. Many other high-profile figures were also named. Trump was told being mentioned in the records is not a sign of wrongdoing. All right. Stephen Chung of the White House has said this is another fake news story, just like the previous story by the Wall Street Journal. In a statement to the Journal on Friday, Bondi and the Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche said nothing in the files warranted further investigation or prosecution. As part of our routine briefing, we made the president aware of the findings. But boy, this does sound different when you think about the ways that Donald Trump is trying to tell people not to look at the Epstein files, not to worry about them, to simmer down about it.
Okay, so bigger picture, CNN is doing two things in response. Number one, they are running stories about Epstein and President Trump. They've been showing wedding photos, etc. And at the same time, they're trying to undermine this story from Tulsi Gabbard and say there's nothing there. Nobody should be paying attention. And as it pertains to MSDNC, their focus is more on President Trump is really just trying to distract everyone. He's pissing off his base. He's in the Epstein files. And that's what we need to continue to talk about. And not to mention where Democrats stand, which is the same old tired message that Republicans are on the run. Take a look.
The decision for the Senate Republicans to make, as Chair Aguilar just indicated, as Catherine Clark has indicated, Republicans are on the run. They have nothing good to sell to the American people. And in the context of this Jeffrey Epstein scandal and their refusal to share information to the American people, despite promising to do so, one must ponder the question, what are they hiding from the American people, and what billionaires, what well-connected donors, what elite people are they trying to protect? Why haven't Republicans released the Epstein files to the American people?
Okay, so the problem with Hakeem Jeffries is he's not authentic whatsoever. I don't believe he even speaks this way in real life, okay? That's the first thing. Secondly, no, Democrats have no solutions, and the solutions they did offer under former President Biden were disastrous for this country. So that's what the American people know. Now, this actually takes us to the fake news story from Wall Street Journal, because not only did Democrats lie about this, but mainstream media was claiming that House Republicans were going on vacation early in order to avoid voting on a measure that would release the Epstein, that would force the FBI to release the Epstein files. So here's what Speaker Johnson had to say in response.
Some of you may have seen a false headline in the New York Times, and the headline was terribly misleading. It said House Republicans are, quote, adjourning until September to avoid a vote on releasing Epstein materials. I just want you to know, and everybody here knows, that's an outright lie. It's not true. And they were forced to modify their headline and update it today. The reason is, we all know that's the initial lie travels much faster than the truth, and so we're making sure that people know what is actually going on here. I think every single one of your publications have known that the published schedule of Congress was decided in December of 2024, and it's been published ever since. We are fulfilling the calendar. We're working. We'll be working tomorrow. There have been votes every day this week. We have 9 or 10 committees working through markups this week, many tomorrow. Congress is doing its work. No one is adjourning early. We have an August district work period that is very important to the function of Congress, that has been recognized for all of memory of this institution, and that is what everyone will be doing. The Times was forced to change the headline because it was completely false. No one in Congress is blocking Epstein documents. No one in Congress is doing that. What we're doing here, Republicans are preventing Democrats from making a mockery of the Rules Committee process because we refuse to engage in their political charade. That is what is happening and nothing more.
Now, I'm very aware that there is a rules process, and I am aware that Democrats are trying to take advantage of that process in order to one-up Republicans, and that's happened quite a few times. And again, a lot of people think when you hear that Democrats and Republicans are voting on something that they're actually voting on the bill. No, it takes a series of votes before we even get to the official vote. And I think that's good information that people should be aware of, besides the fact that Democrats continue to lie and they're trying to use this moment to clearly score political points and make the American people believe they actually care about the victims in regards to Jeffrey Epstein, and they care about this case when they really had nothing to say over the past 4 years.
The way Democrats have tried to weaponize this issue is absolutely shameless. And I just want to say this. Democrats said nothing and did nothing, absolutely nothing, about bringing transparency for the entire 4 years of the Biden presidency. But now, all of a sudden, they want the American people to believe that they actually care. Their actions belie their words. We will not be lectured on transparency by the same party that orchestrated one of the most shameless, dangerous political cover-ups in the history of the United States. And that was President Biden's obvious mental decline. House Republicans stand for maximum transparency and truth. We always have and we always will. We're in lockstep with President Trump and his administration on this issue. We are pushing for the release of all credible information to be released with regard to the Epstein matter. I would note also that there are real issues, legal issues, with the CANA resolution, with the Massey resolution. CANA's has no protection whatsoever for the victims of these horrible, unspeakable sex crimes, and Massey's doesn't go far enough. Additionally, the President has directed the Department of Justice to pursue the release of grand jury information, and that is happening as we speak. In fact, the court is processing the DOJ's request for grand jury materials as we are standing here right now.
Yeah, speaking of that grand jury situation, Judge Robin Rosenberg, who was appointed by former President Obama, she just rejected Pam Bondi's motion to unseal these documents. And here is a photo of the judge herself out of Florida, by the way. And of course, this story continues because former President Obama, and I guess people from his team, had to respond to these allegations. Here's what they said.
We don't often hear from former President Obama, but a spokesman releasing a statement saying these bizarre allegations are ridiculous and a weak attempt at distraction. Nothing in the document issued last week undercuts the widely accepted conclusion that Russia worked to influence the 2016 presidential election, but did not successfully manipulate any votes. These findings were affirmed in a 2020 report by the bipartisan Senate Intel Committee led by then Chairman Marco Rubio.
Okay, and that's just another example of what people are going to say in response, those people being Obama's team, Democrats, CNN, MSDNC, but Marco Rubio this and Marco Rubio that. It's interesting that they still don't want to accept the fact that the Steele dossier was fake and was used in a FISA application to spy on a member of Trump's team. I mean, that alone is ridiculous. Now, what's also ridiculous is this idea that MSDNC came up with that the only reason that President Trump is doing this, I guess, besides to distract everybody from Epstein, according to MSDNC, is that he's jealous of Obama. Take a look.
If the former president of the United States responds to it, does it just give it more oxygen and provide more of a distraction?
Yes, but there's a way to do this properly. What Democrats should do is they can respond to it and then pivot to the fact that Donald Trump is overseeing a horrific economy, skyrocketing prices, 17 million people about to lose health care. Every other cost is rising, and Donald Trump is talking about the former president, whom he's been jealous of for at least 10 years, when, if you remember, Barack Obama roasted him during the dinner, and he's been jealous of him since. The truth is that Barack is smarter, he's cooler, he's better looking, and he's much more beloved than Donald Trump, and that really makes him jealous.
Well, listen, I'm not going to comment on another man's looks, but I will comment on former President Obama's, I guess, being beloved and his influence. It's at an all-time low, ladies and gentlemen. He did a lot of damage to Kamala Harris's campaign. We know that. He disrespected the black community. He was totally disingenuous to black men in general. So, yeah, I don't think he's really loved right now. In fact, I think he's almost as low as former President Biden, to be very clear here. So there's no credibility on that statement whatsoever. And so the bottom line here to this entire video today is that the White House believes this is what people should be focused on, that we should continue to expose what former President Obama and his cronies were up to. We should continue to call out mainstream media for their lying during that time. And today, of course, as I showed you, none of them want to go along with any of this. And in some ways, continue to double down on the very thing that caused them to lose credibility in the first place, which is not reporting the facts. So in the end, I want to hear from you guys in the comments section to what happened today with Tulsi Gabbard, also with CNN and how they try to cut the feed. Give me your thoughts about MSDNC and their angle of attack. And just let me know your overall opinion about the White House and their focus on this particular issue. Just put your thoughts in the comment section below. So in our next video, we talked about last night a stunning announcement from the president where he was able to secure one of the biggest trade deals in history with the country of Japan. So if you're interested in that video, more stories from yesterday, all you have to do is click on that video because it's coming up right now.